If everything you were taught about prayer was incomplete, would you want to know? For centuries, people have knelt in churches, whispered desperate words into the night, and waited for heaven to answer. But what if the silence so many people feel is not rejection, but a sign that something about prayer has been misunderstood? Hidden inside the teachings of Jesus is a secret so unsettling that most people read past it without ever realizing what it means. A secret that suggests prayer was never meant to be begging, never meant to be repetition, and never meant to reach toward a distant God. Because according to the words of Jesus himself, the place where prayer truly begins is not somewhere in the sky. It is somewhere far closer, somewhere most people have never been taught to look. And once you understand this hidden teaching, the way you see prayer, and perhaps even the way you see yourself, may never be the same again. So the real question is this: if the kingdom of God has always been closer than breath, why was this secret almost forgotten? 7 revelations are about to unfold. First, why your prayers fail and the lie that keeps you powerless. Second, the secret chamber Jesus spoke of, not where you think. Third, why Jesus prayed before miracles, not after. Fourth, the act he performed that most dare not speak of today. Fifth, what it truly means to become the prayer. Sixth, why this teaching was so dangerous it had to vanish. Seventh, activation that will transform the way you move through the divine forever. But first, why does prayer often feels like screaming into a void? You know the feeling, that hollow ache at 2 a.m. when the world is silent and your voice echoes back to you alone. The quiet bargaining with God when everything around you is collapsing. The endless repetition of words, so carefully memorized, so desperately whispered, that dissolve into the darkness without ever answering. You've knelt by hospital beds, whispering please until your throat is raw. You've stood in empty rooms after someone you love has gone, begging the unseen to restore what cannot be restored. You've lain awake at 3 a.m., reciting every scripture, repeating every promise, hoping something, anything, pierces the veil. And still silence, still the weight of absence pressing down. You were told prayer is a transaction, that if you say the right words, in the right order, with the right posture, God will respond. Hail Marys, psalms, tongues, promises claimed. And yet, despite your devotion, despite the tears, despite the sincerity, it felt as though your words vanished into thin air. But Jesus saw this long before it became the norm. 2,000 years ago, he warned, "Do not heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, for they think they will be heard for their many words." Empty phrases, the ritual that passes for prayer in countless churches today. Jesus called it hollow, powerless, a shadow of what prayer was meant to be. Here is the first revelation. Prayer is not repetition. Prayer is not a petition. Prayer is not a performance for a distant God who must be convinced. Prayer is not a ritual to be mastered. Prayer is a state of being. And this is the secret most have missed. The true power of prayer does not lie in the words you speak. It lies in the presence you enter, the alignment you awaken, and the hidden doorway you step through when you let go of everything you thought prayer was. For those who dare to understand, prayer is not about asking. It's about becoming. But here is the deeper question most people never ask. If prayer was never meant to be endless words, if God already knows what you need before you ask, then why did Jesus speak about a secret place, a hidden chamber, a place where prayer actually begins? Listen carefully to the words he used. When you pray, enter your inner room, shut the door, and pray to your Father who is in secret. For centuries, people imagined a physical room, a quiet place in the house, a closet, a corner, a private space away from others. But the words Jesus used point to something far more mysterious. Because the chamber he described was not built with walls. It was not a physical location. It was an inner sanctuary, a hidden place within the depths of your own being, a place beneath your thoughts, beneath your fears, beneath the noise of the world, a place where no one else can enter. Not priests, not institutions, not doctrines, only you, and the presence waiting there. To understand the power of this teaching, we must go back thousands of years. In the Temple of Solomon, there was a room known as the Holy of Holies. It was considered the most sacred space on earth, a place where the divine presence was believed to dwell, and no one was allowed to enter it except the high priest. Once a year, one man, one moment, separated from the people by a thick veil. The message was clear. God is sacred. You are distant. Access is restricted. But something extraordinary happened the moment Jesus died. The scriptures say the veil of the temple was torn, not from the bottom upward, as if humans ripped it, but from the top downward, as if something beyond the human world tore the barrier open. Most people think that event meant humanity was finally allowed to approach God. But what if it meant something far more radical? What if the veil was never meant to protect God from humanity, but to hide the truth from humanity? Because the truth Jesus revealed was this: the real Holy of Holies was never inside the temple. It was inside you. The sanctuary was never built from stone. It was built into your very being. And that is the secret place he was talking about. Not hidden from you, hidden as you, beneath the noise of the mind, beneath the programming of religion, beneath every voice that told you that you were unworthy. That chamber has always been there, waiting. Now imagine something with me. Close your eyes for a moment if you can. Not your physical eyes if you're busy, but the inner gaze of your awareness. Imagine closing a door, not a wooden door, but the door of your attention. On the other side of that door are all the voices, the expectations, the rules, the accusations, the endless religious noise telling you what you should be. Close the door on all of it, and notice what remains. At first it may feel like emptiness, but stay there long enough, and something strange begins to emerge. Stillness. A stillness that feels alive. A silence that isn't absence, but presence. This is the space Jesus entered before every miracle. Not a performance of words, not a ritual of repetition, a descent into stillness. And here is the strange part most people overlook. Jesus said something that completely changes the meaning of prayer. Your Father knows what you need before you ask. Think about that carefully. If God already knows, why ask? If God already understands, why explain? If God already sees, why repeat the request over and over again? The answer is uncomfortable for many religious systems, because it means prayer was never about informing God. It was about aligning yourself. Jesus wasn't trying to persuade heaven. He was tuning himself to it. Place your hand over your heart for a moment. Feel that rhythm, the quiet pulse that has been beating since before you ever spoke your first word. It beats when you are asleep. It beats when you forget about it. It beats whether you pray or not. You never asked your heart to start beating. You never negotiated for each breath. Yet they continue. Steady, faithful, uninterrupted. What if that rhythm is not just biology? What if it is prayer? Not the prayer of words, but the prayer of existence itself. Every heartbeat saying yes to life. Every breath carrying the invisible breath of the Spirit. Your life itself is a conversation with the divine. You just forgot how to hear it. Jesus remembered, and that is why before every miracle, he withdrew, not to beg, not to negotiate, but to align, to enter the secret chamber, to become still enough that the will of heaven and the will within him became the same movement. And when that alignment happened, reality began to bend. The sick were healed, the hungry were fed, the impossible unfolded, not because he convinced God to act, but because he became so aligned with the divine current that the current moved through him. And here we reach the most dangerous idea of all. Jesus never intended prayer to remain something you say. He intended it to become something you are. Look carefully at his life. When he touched the leper, that was prayer. When he forgave the woman condemned by the crowd, that was prayer. When he fed thousands with almost nothing, that was prayer. Every act of compassion, every gesture of love, every moment of courage, prayer in motion. The religious world often reduces prayer to words spoken toward heaven, but Jesus turned it inside out. Prayer was not reaching upward. Prayer was living in alignment with divine love. A life where every breath becomes worship. Every action becomes communion. Every moment becomes sacred. And that is why the religious authorities feared him. Because if people realized this truth, they would no longer depend on temples. They would no longer depend on intermediaries. They would realize the temple was alive within them. And living temples are impossible to control. Because once a person realizes that the divine presence is not distant, not hidden in buildings, not owned by institutions, everything changes. Prayer is no longer something you visit for a few moments each day. It becomes the way you breathe, the way you walk, the way you see every human soul. But there is still one final mystery, one truth Jesus hinted at, but few people have ever fully understood. A moment when prayer becomes something even deeper than action. A moment when the voice of God is no longer outside you, but calls your name from within the silence. And when that moment arrives, everything you thought you knew about prayer will collapse. Because the final revelation was never about speaking to God. It was about discovering that in the deepest silence, God has been calling you all along. And that is where our final chapter begins. If you've made it here, it is no accident. You were never meant for hollow prayer. You were born to embody the unseen, to become the answer, the healing, the love the world desperately seeks. Most will never know this. They reach outward, beg upward, unaware that the source has always lived within. The secret was buried for a reason. Outward prayer keeps you dependent, keeps you under authority, keeps you returning to buildings, to rules, to formulas. But inward, living prayer, embodied prayer, liberates. Fully, dangerously, radically, free from control, free from guilt, free from empty rituals. Prayer is not reaching heaven. Prayer is descending into the kingdom within. And here is the recognition your spirit has always known. The real communion always happens in silence, in the secret place, in the depths where no human hand can touch. Every empty ritual, every hollow repetition, every church service that left you distant, it was never your fault. It was your soul recognizing the counterfeit. Knowledge alone is not enough. You must move into it. Become it. Jesus didn't just pray. He was the prayer. Every healing, every feeding, every embrace, every act of mercy, prayer in motion. Not words, not ritual, embodiment. Communion with the divine expressed as action. Feel it now. Breath, heartbeat, hands on chest, the pulse, the rhythm, the life force that sustains and loves without asking. This is the hidden current. Let every step, every word, every touch become aligned with it. You are the living prayer the world waits for. The question is not whether God will answer your prayers. The question is, will you answer the prayer of the world? Will you walk fully awake, fully aware, fully aligned with the unseen that pulses through everything? You are now part of a lineage of hidden ones. Mystics, Gnostics, contemplatives. Hunted, erased, silenced. The current remains. And now, you are part of it. Something has shifted. You can never return to shallow rituals. You are awakened. The world is darkening. Old systems crumble. The masses search blindly, hungry for what they cannot name. They are waiting for living conduits like you. Not through preaching, not through show, but through presence. Through embodiment. The final truth, the divine, is not separate. It is not distant. It is the current running through you, shaping every breath, every heartbeat, every thought. You are the vessel. You are the secret. You are the forbidden knowledge walking in flesh. As the final veil lifts, know this, the hidden path does not end. It is a descent into the infinite within. You have glimpsed it. You have awakened. The darkness you feel around you is no longer a void. It is the sacred shadow revealing the luminous pulse beneath. Walk with it. Carry it. Guard it. The unseen has chosen you. And for those who truly hear, the path continues, always within, always deeper, beyond the eyes of the many.